What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome back to Zer0 Thought. It has been a while since I've made one of these videos, and no, that doesn't mean I haven't been thinking. It's just I haven't really felt like hopping behind the mic and chatting about some of these thoughts I've had, but here I am, super late, I'm tired, and it's probably got something to do with it. And I feel like chatting about interpreting emotions. It's a two-word title, it's kind of abstract, it's kind of vague. You're probably wondering why I call it that or whatnot. A lot of it's just for like the title or the thumbnail and stuff. But how do I sum it up? It's basically, how do you make the most out of your emotions? How do you interpret your feelings and use them? And it's something you typically don't really think about, right? I don't think it's a very typically used model for interpreting one's emotions. And I guess while we're talking about my thoughts on it, quick disclaimer, this is just how I think about this. This is, my interpretation of my feelings, something I found really useful in my life, and something that I just kind of want to share in hopes that I at least get someone to think about their feelings or emotions in a different way. Hopefully it's helpful to at least one person who listens to the video, but again, just open-mindedness, just listen. And of course, at the end, I'd love to have an active discussion in the comment section or on the Discord server about your thoughts on the topic. And with that being said, let's hop into it. So yeah, emotions. A lot of times we feel negative about something, and then 2 weeks later we run into the same problem. We feel equally negative, if not more negative, and we all have things we like, right? We have things that we run into, things we do, things we watch, things people we hang out with, and we feel positive, right? And we consistently feel positive with those sorts of things. But I feel like not very many people really reflect and try to figure out why. Why do I feel negative with this particular event? Why do I feel so positive about this particular person? And I think there's a lot to learn from that. So I want to talk about how I've started to do that and kind of the process by which I do that in hopes that someone can learn from it. And I don't actually know exactly when I started doing this. It's probably 5 or 6 years ago, probably at the beginning of college, because I don't think I had the emotional maturity in high school. But yeah, it's like, it's kind of like looking at your feelings as kind of sensory feedback. So obviously, neurological system's really complicated and such, but when you think of something like putting your hand on a hot stove, without even really thinking, you have this involuntary reaction to pull back, right? Because your hand detects that it's touching something that's really hot, so hot that it's dangerous. You're going to harm yourself, and that transmits as pain, and that pain tells you to immediately take your hand off of it for your own good, right? And these are things that are oftentimes natural, ingrained in us. Some of them we learn over time, but I feel like emotions are often kind of put in their own category. People think of them as this kind of subjective, and they are very subjective to an extent, but there also is a lot of concrete chemical basis and such, but that's a totally different topic. But emotions are oftentimes treated differently, so they're not kind of thought about in a lot of classical manners by the average person. Obviously there are people that study this sort of thing and know a lot more about it than I do, but when you think about it as kind of like a sensory input, you can think about it in the sense of, oh, I'm having this emotion, I'm having this feeling in response to something I'm experiencing right now. Whether that's something I'm literally feeling with my hands, whether that's an emotion, not emotion, I mean like you are experiencing the emotion, or it's like an event, it's a perception of something that's going on, whether that's a rejection letter, whether that's getting a job, whether that's being invited to, a friend's house that you've been looking forward to reuniting with, or whatever it is. Your emotion is feedback. It's a response to some sort of stimulus, and oftentimes it's not as consciously thought about and interpreted, and as a result used to determine what you actually responded to. And what I mean by that is, if you were, for example, really happy to be invited over to a friend's house, you would want to ask yourself, why? I feel really overjoyed about this, I'm really happy about this, and you could just go on and go to the friend's house, enjoy yourself, and say, oh, that was really fun, I'm probably going to want to do that again. But if you don't ask yourself why you were so overjoyed, you might be missing out on something. It's not that you won't get by without it, but it could be helpful. And in this particular example, I would say, okay, so why was I really happy to be invited by this friend? It could be a multitude of things. It could be I've not been hanging out with this friend a lot and I'm really looking forward to getting back together with them. I'm really looking forward to having a friend at all, right? I normally am kind of lonely and I'm really looking forward to just bonding with someone, just sharing some sort of experience with someone. Or it could be, my life's not really great right now. I don't really like what's going on, and this friend's house could act as an escape, and it'll be nice to kind of pull away from things, play some video games, maybe go shopping, chat about whatever's going on in their life to kind of take me away. It could be, I really like the food they have there. There are a lot of different things that could be the actual root, and it could of course be a combination of that sort of positive reaction. And I think if you hone in on that more specified stimulus, if you take the time to really think back about it, you'll be able to guide your future in such a way that's more directed towards those stimuli, right? If you understand that, I was really happy to be invited by this friend to their house because really I've been feeling kind of lonely lately. Maybe then you have a better understanding of your own social situation, your own psychosocial situation, how you're feeling, what your life status is like. You came to the realization that you have been lonely, right? You might not have even known it. You might have been spiraling, right? It's really easy to start to get down and let it snowball, and you start to reclude, you start to lose interest in things, you start to lose your passions, the things you would do alone to keep yourself occupied and happy, but you might not even realize it while it's happening. And it's only when you take a step back, when you take the time to think about it, that you can actually identify it and that you can start to do something about it, right? When you realize, I was actually really lonely. I actually really wanted just a friend. Then you can say, okay, now that I know that, I can use that going forward. I can say, then I'll just try and look for more friends. Obviously, easier said than done, depending on the person, right? Some people are naturals, some people have a little bit more difficulty with it, but you at least have a direction, right? You know what was positive about that experience, what made you happy about that experience, and you can look for that stimulus in the future. And this applies to a whole bunch of different things. And, there are a lot of things where you might take up too much time. Sometimes it might just not be worth it. But for a lot of bigger emotions, for a lot of more serious events, it's really important, I think, to take the time to really reflect on what is it that's making me feel this way. I know for relationships, for example, this is incredibly important because you need to be able to communicate to the person that made you feel this way, especially because you hopefully want to be with them for a long time. What about their interaction, their attitude, their tone, their words, their actions, their present, anything made you feel that way, so that once you understand, you can communicate that and you can work together to avoid those sorts of things in the future. And this isn't just significant other relationships. This could be friendships. This could be family relationships. This could be, a relationship with your dog. If you got really stressed because your dog loved this one particular toy and you wanted to take it away because the squeaking was, driving you insane, and then your dog bit you for it, you can think about why did that happen? What's the root cause? Why do I feel so negative? Why do I feel so frustrated? Is it, and then where to go from there? Is it, okay, well then maybe we should just try and find a toy that's equally enjoyable for the dog but doesn't squeak or something like that. Basically, identify the root of the problem or identify the root of the happiness so that you can direct your future accordingly. And that's basically it. That's basically it. And a lot of times it requires a lot of maturity, right? You really need to be able to kind of distance yourself from the emotion for a moment and reflect on it. It's really difficult when you're in a bad mood to think about anything other than all the bad factors, everything that's making you mad. It's I can't believe this person did this thing and they said it this way, and they're just such a horrible person, But if you really take a step back and think about it, it's what about the tone of their voice actually upset me? Was it what they said, or was it how they said it? Was it their body language? Is it reflective of their actual attitude towards me? Or was I reading into it too much? And is it something that can be fixed? Is it something temporary or fleeting, a habit maybe of theirs that they'd be willing to correct for the sake of my comfort in this friendship? That's just another example of a lot of ways that this can be thought about and can be applied to almost any aspect of your life. Because, I mean, let's be real. You feel emotions about almost everything in your life. I mean, an emotion could be indifference towards something. It's like, why do I feel indifferent? Why do I not care about this? And then you can, do the same sort of analysis. And I'm probably just talking myself in circles at this point. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. Interpreting emotions. Really taking the time to think why you feel a particular way, and then using that going forward to better steer your life in a direction you want to, I think is a skill that doesn't really come naturally to anyone, but requires practice and can be incredibly helpful to anyone. So I hope that I'm not going to claim to be perfect either at it too. I'm not going to get up here on some I don't know, I'm not going to act like I'm preaching from some higher up position, right? I'm still struggling with it and working on it too. I just think that it's something I'm very consciously aware of and have been working on for a while, and I think almost everyone can benefit from. So I wanted to share it with as many people as possible, as early as possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, other ways of thinking about and interpreting your emotions too, because I'm one person. I think in a very particular way. I try to be as open-minded as possible. I try to look at things from as many perspectives as possible, but there's so many people in the world, so many different types of personalities, experiences, emotions that make people different from one another, and naturally there's no way I can encompass all those perspectives with myself. So if you guys have any interesting ways of talking about or understanding, analyzing your own emotions and using them going forward, I would love to hear about it, either in the comment section or the Discord. But that's about all I got for now. If you guys are excited for more Zer0 Thought or have other topics you maybe want me to chat about, let me know if there's that interest, because this was fun. I enjoyed it. So you guys might see a bit more of it in the future. But until then, this has been Zer0, and this mission is complete.